The classic movie, The Princess Bride, has a famous scene where rodents of an unusual size attack the main characters. The whole idea of rodents of an unusual size is supposed to be fiction, of course, but in fact there are rodents of gigantic size. One of these would be the gigantic Ice Age beaver, Castoroides ohioensis, which reached 7 feet in length and weighed about 275 pounds, about the size of a small bear. Its enormous skull dwarfs the skull of a living beaver, its closest relative. Castoroides lived across much of North America, especially the northeastern states, during much of the Ice Ages, and was probably hunted by early humans. Unlike modern beavers, it did not have a paddle-shaped tail, nor was it adapted to eating mostly saplings. And Castoroides was by no means the only giant rodent. There were some in South America that reached the size of rhinos. Rodents are by far the most numerous and diverse mammals on the planet, with some, like rats and mice, in populations of millions around the world. The latest classification teams recognize 33 families, 481 genera, and 2,277 species of living rodents. They make up more than 40% of living mammal species, and there are at least 5 times that number of extinct genera and species. Their classification schemes were a mess, because they're difficult to work with, there's a lot of evolutionary parallelism, and there are so many of them to deal with. In the past 30 years, however, molecular genetics has allowed us to sort them out a little bit better, and the classification schemes closely resembles some that were in use just based on teeth and bone. The oldest relatives of rodents come from beds around 60 million years old in China and Mongolia, which tells us that both the rabbits and the rodents originated from the Far East. The most striking feature of rodents is a chisel-like pair of gnawing front incisors in both the upper and lower jaws. Rodents use them not only to gnaw on their food, but also gnaw on wood, to create holes to cut down trees, and they even dig burrows with them. Their incisors are rootless and constantly growing, and they curve deeply back into the skull and the lower jaw. They're continuously worn down by use as they gnaw, and the incisors grow continuously to compensate for this wear. The incisors are made of soft dentin with a band of hard enamel only on the leading edge, so as the teeth gnaw, the enamel is self-sharpening. Rodent classification is largely based on the way the muscles around the jaws attach to the skull. In the sauromorphous muscle condition, the lateral master muscle attaches to the front of the arches in front of the eye socket. In the myomorph condition, the muscles attach both to the front of the eye socket and also through a hole in the arch called the infraorbital foramen. In the hystricomorph condition, the infraorbital foramen is huge in the arch in front of the eye socket, and large masses of muscles pass through that opening. Another classificatory feature is the lower jaws. Most jaws have just a simple angle in the back, but the ostrich-gnath jaw, which is found in porcupines and their relatives, sticks out way sideways into the bony flange. Based on these features, and confirmed by molecular biology, it turns out that most of the groups of rodents are clearly defined and in natural groups. The squirrels and marmots and woodchucks form the sauromorpha, or squirrel-like forms. Again, they're defined by having the master muscle attached in front of the arch beside the eyes. In addition to squirrels and marmots, one of the most bizarre and unusual sauromorphs were the mylagolids, or horned rodents. They had these enormous horns on the tip of their snouts, which have been controversial for a long time as to how they were used. The most widely accepted idea today is they used it for defense, to protecting against predators attacking them, especially when they used them in the mouth of their burrows. In the beds around 22 million years old in Nebraska, there were these strange structures called demonelics, or devil's corkscrews. It later was discovered that they're the corkscrew burrows of these mylagolids, which are found in the very bottom chamber. The biggest group of rodents is the myomorpha, which includes the rats, mice, gophers, jerboas, and many other groups of rodents. They make up almost 75% of the total rodentia, and apparently also include beavers with the latest molecular evidence. Finally, one of the most distinctive groups of all is the Stricomorpha, that includes the porcupines and all the South American cavimorph rodents. The oldest cavimorphs come from beds around 40 million years old in Peru, and they show us that cavimorphs are descended from African porcupines and their relatives. Around 41 million years ago, they rafted across the much narrower Atlantic to found the giant South American radiation cavimorph. Today, all of South America's rodents are cavimorphs, including things like the guinea pig, the chinchilla, the agouti, the pacarana, and many more. There are 14 separate families with dozens of genera and hundreds of species of cavimorphs. The largest of all the cavomorphs, and indeed the largest living rodent whatsoever, is the capybara of South America. It can weigh almost 200 pounds. Capybaras are equally at home in water and on land, and they need the water often to hide from their predators like jaguars and pumas and eagles. When threatened, they can stay underwater and hold their breath for up to 5 minutes until the predator has gone away. They feed mainly on grasses and water plants, along with fruits and tree bark. The capybara may be the largest living rodent, but the extinct rhinoceros-sized species from 5 million years ago, Josefa artigacia, weighed almost 2,000 pounds and was 10 feet long, the size of a small rhino. Only slightly smaller was the gigantic Ice Age capybara, Neochirus pinckneyi, which weighed about 250 pounds, the size of a cow, and was 40% larger than the living capybara. It was found in Florida and Central America. Another giant was a huge Pacarana phoboromys, which means terror mouse in Greek. It came from beds around 15 million years ago. It was up to 10 feet long and weighed about 1,500 pounds. Another giant Pacarana from beds around 5 million years old was Telecomys, which weighed about 1,100 pounds and was 7 feet long. Telecomys means rodent of unusual size in Greek, so the phrase from The Princess Bride actually was not original. As we do a side-by-side comparison of the skulls of Josefa artigacia, phoboromys, Telecomys, and Neochirus, it is apparent that rodents of unusual size are not just a Hollywood invention.